Right,
Oh,
that's
okay.
very good, very good.
That's how I want to do it.
Everybody ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. Welcome to Scarsdale Dental Spa. Tonight is a very special presentation, near and dear to my heart, because I'm all about patient-doctor communication, as we are and have been in our practice for a long time. And certainly, the past 25 years, we've taken a lot of pride in helping patients communicate more effectively and really know about the care that they're getting, and we've taken a lot of pride in helping people get care here in this practice. Just touch the space bar. Get yourself back on.
Thank you.
So I'm proud to present The Patient Will See You Now, which is a great title, and it's so important, especially in our day and age, when we feel a little bit more disconnected from the medical system and from the care we really want to get. So I think everybody in the room would agree. We'd like to know more about how to become our best advocate, how to become our own best doctor and healer. And you know, when I met these two young ladies and I found out the work they did, it was so important to me to bring them in and to support what they do. And so I'm very proud to announce Liz and Maureen. I'm going to read you their bios. Elizabeth Gabor, MSW, is a mind-body medicine practitioner. She has received extensive training for healthcare professionals at the world-renowned Center for Mind-Body Medicine in Washington, D.C. Elizabeth is also a certified success coach with internationally recognized certification in the Canfield methodology, under direct training with global thought leader and co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, Jack Canfield, who we all know well. Elizabeth is also a certified Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher and wife and mother and super business person and super business partner and friend and all that cool stuff. So welcome, Liz.
Thank you.
Maureen Pasinkoff, MA, SLP, is a speech language pathologist. She's trained in REDE to communicate at the Cleveland Clinic Center for Excellence in Healthcare Communication, a nationally recognized program for transforming any conversation in healthcare relationships. Maureen completed the Enriching Relationships in Communication in Healthcare course at the American Academy on Communication in Healthcare, designed to teach relationship-centered communications in healthcare. And welcome, Maureen. We met at the Booming Better exhibit, what was that, an event we did over at Purchase, SUNY Purchase, right? You know, you all wonder why we're so big on events. Why do we go out and meet people in the community? Why do we take this time? Why do we do all this planning? Why do we put tables and tablecloths and all this stuff? Just for this reason. So when we meet people of like mind and like heart, they come over to our table, we say hello, we end up meeting spouses who we continue relationships with, do business with, and we foster this kind of open-hearted communication in a time when we're desperately seeking connection. Everyone is feeling disconnected by technology, obviously, as you can see. And so what we need to do is we need to connect people so that we can foster this like-minded, like-hearted stuff. So without further ado, Liz and Maureen, take it away. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. We're so thrilled to be here, and we're so grateful for you for hosting us and for having
Very
like-minded visions. So I'm going to talk for like 35 minutes, and then Maureen's going to talk. Let's just see. Okay. So I'm going to start with a story about a woman named Mary. So Mary walks into a dinner party, and she walks in with like a little swag, a little edge. You guys know what I'm talking about. And she walks over to her table, and her presence alone and her energy draws everyone's eyes to lock in with hers. And she confidently introduces herself like this. Hi, I'm Mary. I'm 92 years old, and I'm just getting started. What an amazing mindset. So Mary was wearing a hip fedora and funky earrings, kind of like she could have been on the cover of an AARP magazine or be touring with the Rolling Stones. There's Mary. Meet Mary. I'm 92 years old and I'm just getting started. What an amazing mindset. What if we could all say to ourselves and to each other, I'm just getting started. So I want you to take a moment and turn to the person on either side of you and introduce yourself like this. Hi, say your name. You don't have to say your age because we're ageless in here. And I'm just getting started. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Janet, and I'm just getting started. I'm Barbara, I'm just getting started.
Awesome. Doesn't that feel good?
Yeah.
Right? So what would it look like if wherever you are in your life and in your health, you said to yourself and to others, I'm just getting started. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about how choosing our mindset and our attitude relate to better health and vitality. I'm going to talk about how stress is making us sick and what we can do about that. I'm going to talk about the mind-body connection and how they affect each other both positively and negatively. I'm going to teach you 3 simple breathing techniques that are powerful tools to manage our stress that you can begin to use immediately. We have longer workshops. We have a series of 6 workshops. And so we're able to provide a lot of experiential work, and we are going to provide as much as we're able to for you guys tonight, okay? Crash course. Sound good. Sounds good.
Tap the space bar. Tap the space bar.
Okay. Oops. I think that's going to go away like it did. Beautiful. So our nervous system is the way that our bodies and our brains respond to experiences. It's comprised of the parasympathetic nervous system, our relaxation response, when we're feeling calm and at peace and open and receptive. And on a biological level, our blood pressure and our heart rates go down. Our digestive and our immune systems operate smoothly. And we secrete the feel-good hormones like serotonin and oxytocin. And the counterpart to our relaxation response is the stress response, our sympathetic nervous system, which is known as the fight, flight, freeze, or submission response. As humans, actually all animals, we are hardwired with the self-preservation reflex. Have all of you guys heard of the fight or flight response?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So it was designed to activate automatically in response to a perceived threat or danger, such as in prehistoric times, if we heard like a saber-toothed tiger hissing outside our cave. And on perceiving this threat, you prepare to either fight or run from the tiger. Physiologically, your heart rate and your blood pressure rise. Your breathing is fast and shallow.
Which presentation is presentation?
How did the music
Just
come
put
on?
music. Can you find that?
Yeah, it's right there, Chrome.
Just open it. Did you just put the music?
There we go.
Yeah, no, I lowered. I was lowering a little. No, I didn't
Go
go
all the way around.
computer.
So it's loud.
Oh, good.
Put it on sleep nap.
So, again, our breathing gets shallow and slow. And fast. Our immune system, our digestive systems they shut down in the stress response. And our blood rushes to our large muscles and away from our extremities. You secrete a go please. Yes, you may. Anybody can get up and take care of yourself. This is about self-care.
This way. Yeah.
Wrong way
This way.
Wow.
He's like my son.
Can I go?
Giggling like children.
So we're also secreting cortisol and adrenaline, which is our stress hormones. And we perspire automatically to prevent our bodies from overheating. And all this is great if we're about to be dinner for a saber-toothed tiger. However, our bodies respond It's okay. Let's see. it made a little, I felt something. I'll keep talking. So this survival response activates.
It may not be hitting the exact spot where it's
Yeah,
supposed to.
probably the light.
So he's funny.
Here.
Oh, the name.
It's not leaving.
Talk about techno stress a little later.
It's a whole different
Nice example
presentation.
of it. There you go.
Oh, nice.
Hey. Actually, the next one. There we go. So the survival response activates and our bodies respond in the same way to both a real and an imagined threat. So I want you guys to get that. So it's what we imagine, our bodies do respond the same way I was just describing to the stress response. So what's happening to many people in our modern world is we're getting caught in or stuck in the cycle of chronic stress, stuck in that fight or flight, worrying about and imagining, replaying what could happen, what could have happened, what might happen. So just a quick story about my son Jesse, who's 18 now. When he was 10, he was riding his little scooter down the street of our block, and I was sitting on my chair on the porch, and he was riding down the street, and a car came barreling out of a driveway. I mean, full on gas pedal, and I was sure he was hit. Thankfully, thank God he was okay. However, for like a couple of weeks after that, I would drive by the driveway and like it would catch my view. My heart would start palpitating. I would start catastrophizing about what could have happened, and have all of those reactions that are related to the stress response. And it was just in my imagination. And I had to make a really concerted, conscious effort to say, okay, let this go. He is okay. And once I did that, I was able to let it go. I didn't have that kind of replay in my mind anymore. So just to lighten it up a bit, I love this quote by Mark Twain. He says, I have been through some terrible things in my life, some of which have actually happened. But the problem is from a physical health perspective, not to mention a psychological health perspective, is that this chronic stress often leads to hypertension, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, decreased immune and digestive functioning, autoimmune diseases, to name a few. So we know from the research that stress makes us sick, and it also makes us stupid, which I'll explain about more later, and which Maureen's going to dive deeper into it in her talk. Yay. Not yay for the statistic, but yay. Research out of Harvard Medical School estimates that 75 to 90% of doctor visits are stress related. And in only 3% of doctor visits are stress levels addressed and stress management counseling being provided by doctors to their patients. Of course. And this is extremely disconcerting to us, and it should be to all of us. And we also know that inherent in the patient-physician interaction, stress and/or fear is likely to be present, which means our fight, flight, freeze, submission response is likely to be activated. So, we may want to run out of the office as fast as we can. We may freeze. We may choke and never get to our most pressing concerns. And we may submit, just taking whatever the doctor tells us as gospel, regardless of whether we agree with the doctor or not. We may forego our right to get multiple opinions, which can lead to unwanted surgeries, medications, whatever it is. that are not fully aligned with what we believe is best for our personal healing journey. And it is our mission, we're in our mission, to train people to be empowered, confident patients who can stay present in their doctor visits, listen clearly to what the doctor's opinions are, ask all the relevant questions for their best understanding, and then make the best decisions for their health from their personal inner guidance system, their inner wisdom. But again, because the stress response activates automatically to a perceived threat, again, both real and imagined, I want you guys to remember that, we need to train our minds and strengthen our parasympathetic nervous system, our relaxation response, so that we can return to homeostasis quicker when faced with stressful situations, such as our doctor visits. We actually can train our minds to come back to calm on command. And one powerful way to do this is meditation. And you can start with as little as 16 seconds, which I will teach you a little bit later. But thankfully, now science, a lot of science, has caught up with what regular meditators have been saying for thousands of years. Meditation, when practiced regularly, has the ability to reduce stress, anxiety, depression, reduce blood pressure and heart rates, improve immune function, reduce inflammation, and can help people deal with chronic pain and illness, and even produce disease reversal.
I didn't put the phone on, but I didn't want the phone to go.
We did 5 edits.
Thank you.
Sorry.
There's also numerous scientific studies that meditation strengthens the neural pathways in our brain that correlate with concentration, memory, compassion, and optimism. It's referred to as neuroplasticity. If you guys have heard of that, it's our ability to change our brains. There's a study out of UCLA that confirms that meditation thickens a part of our brain called the corpus callosum. That's it right there. It's the strip that connects our right brain and our left brain. So, why do we want a thicker corpus callosum? I wish it was a good party trick, but unfortunately we can't see it. But it literally is the bridge between the critical mind and the creative minds. And when there's cohesion between the right and the left sides of the brain, we're able to access that state of flow, that flow state, the most optimal condition of our minds. And meditators have an increased ability to access that state. I always say to people that no one cares if you're good at meditation. If you don't have a lot of thoughts or whatever, no one cares. But people do care how you are at life. And what happens as a result of practicing meditation is that it starts to affect all of your waking state, and it will permeate your life, your relationships, how you parent, your family life, how you relate to coworkers, your decision-making abilities, how you respond to stressful situations. So it starts to affect all areas of life. Oops. There's the flow state, the most productive state and creative state of mind for us to be in. So I'm going to go quickly through this, but there's 3 different types of formal meditation. The most ancient being expressive or active meditation, like shaking and whirling, if you've ever seen that. It's kind of like a trance-like movement type of meditation. The second is single point focus or concentrative, where you focus on one thing. Maybe it's a candle flame, maybe it's a mantra, and mantra only means mind vehicle. So it's a mind vehicle to bring us into that state. You might focus on just the inhalation and your exhalation. or someone may guide you with their words, guided meditations. They're a great entry point for meditation, and I always teach them in our longer trainings, but you can easily find them on any topic that you might want to deal with on the internet. The third is mindfulness or contemplative meditation, where we simply just watch and notice our thoughts, our feelings, and the sensations that are in our body. So let's start with mindfulness. And I know it's a buzzword these days, a lot of hype. How would any of you guys, how would you define mindfulness? Throwing it out. Yes.
Sorry, to be present and aware.
Nice. Nice. Anyone else? Okay. That's beautiful. So I define mindfulness as the art of simply being aware or present to what is actually happening now, to anything that life throws at us without judgment, which is an important piece. And it's really, really good at helping us to alleviate stress in the present moment. Another way of saying it is that mindfulness is a conscious acceptance of what is, whatever that may be. So a cornerstone of our work is that we train our participants to be mindful in one of the most vulnerable interactions that all of us have to deal with, our visits to the doctor. So by learning how to practice mindfulness and the other types of mind-body techniques that we teach, we are training our minds so that we are in control of our minds rather than our minds controlling us. So have any of you ever participated in formal physical training, got a trainer, gone to a gym class, got a coach for whatever sport? Yes?
Sure.
Yes. Okay.
Brief period of time.
We're working on that.
We're working on. She's my hero.
You're my hero. So it's kind of a trick question. I'm sorry. No, let me ask the second question before I tell you it's a trick question. Have any of you ever gotten formal training for your mind? Nice. Okay, a couple of you.
Wow.
So yeah, that's where I come in. It's kind of a trick question, but what I know is that those who condition their minds to live in the present moment, those people experience more of the richness and the texture of life, and they experience less suffering when faced with difficult and troubling situations. But here's the deal. In order to develop a new skill, we have to practice. And meditation is the most efficient way to train our minds to come back to the now. And it's also the most efficient way to give ourselves deep, healing rest where we can release the backlog of stress and emotional garbage that is accumulated in our cells. So in the times we're living in, there's so much external noise and stimulus bombarded at us constantly. And there's also that noise in our minds, which is often all over the place, hence the term monkey mind. I don't know if you guys heard the term monkey mind. Monkey mind is a Buddhist term which refers to our mental chatter. So, an example of this is me. This is a drawing of me before I have highlights. And I thought that I just didn't like yoga. This is the warrior pose, but for me it was the warrior pose. I would say, for example, do my boobs look weird in this top? Is everyone looking at me? Am I doing this right? Am I doing anything right? What is my life's purpose? Am I happy? What do I want? Should I get chips for dinner? I have quite the active monkey mind. But I have to say, meditation really helped me, and now I teach yoga. So this was pre-meditation days, before 35. So I started late. Okay. Just a fun fact: we think anywhere from 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day. But the mental noise in our minds is often filled with negative thoughts, fears, and doubts for a lot of us. So it's more important than ever to train and tame our minds. And there are other ways to do this I'll get into later, but in mindfulness practice, we return to the present moment just by dropping back into the present moment. And when our mind wanders, which it always will, we just return back into the present moment. And the more that we practice, over time we're able to string more present moments together, and if we stay with it, we actually can train our minds again to return to calm on command. So it takes time and it takes practice to develop a disciplined mind. And it's really so important because wisdom is only revealed in the present moment. Stress hangs out in the past and in the future. And so where mindfulness really pays off as a practice is that when we're able to de-excite our nervous system, we're able to really listen to that inner voice, that inner wisdom that we all have. I like to think of meditation as awareness training mixed with focus training, mixed with non-judgmental training. So what happens as a result is we develop a trust in ourselves, which is another core principle in Maureen and I's work at the Wellness and Communication Project. We teach people that nothing can rake or break us as if we are able to stay grounded and centered. And I want that for everyone, and I want that for all of you. Most practices do start with the breath. Why? Because as long as we're alive, it's available to us. So tonight I'm going to share with you just a few quick breathing techniques that I hope you'll begin to incorporate into your day for just a few minutes. So when your mind starts to head into crazy town, you're able to bring yourself back in a matter of seconds. And I want you to have fun with this when you're home. For example, when you're in the shower, you can ask yourself, am I in the shower? Or is my mind off wandering about my to-do lists, my mind off worrying about what's going to happen next, or a whole slew of things that our mind can take us instead of being and enjoying that beautiful hot water shower that we're so blessed to have. So we're training ourselves to become more aware of our thoughts, and then we can simply drop back in to the present moment. Do any of you practice or are aware of times in your day that you stop for a moment and just take a few deep breaths? Any of you? Okay. There is an app for that that I have. Every hour it says stop, breathe, relax, smile, and it's amazing. Something I want you to really get with you tonight, to take away with you, is that you can simply take a few deep breaths at any time, whether you're feeling stressed and worried in the doctor's office, or overwhelmed, or something or someone triggers you, or if you just simply want to recalibrate your energy. Taking a conscious breath can be an effective tool for coming back to your center. So let's just do, first we're going to just do our first quick breathing technique. It's really, really simple. Take a deep breath. So what I want you to do when you take a deep breath, I want you to really expand your belly as you take the deep breath in, really full breath. And as you exhale the breath, just let your shoulders, let yourself just relax into it. So breathe in deeply. And as you let it out, just let it all go. Relax. Your shoulders might come forward. One more time. And exhale all the air out and relax. I just feel every time I feel a difference. There's like a clarity that happens. It's just the air is more clear. Okay, good job. So the next one, like I mentioned earlier, is called 16 Seconds to Calm. So in this one, I like to think of it as like a reset button, like a pattern interrupter. And it's a 4-part breath. So you're going to inhale for 4, hold the breath for 4, exhale for 4, and hold the breath out for 4. Okay, and I'll count you down. So let's do it just 2 rounds together. So you're going to inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold the breath out. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold it out, 1, 2. A technique that, and it really, it is a yogic breathing technique called alternate nostril breathing. So I said I'm a yoga teacher, and I found this technique to be highly effective for myself and also my students in bringing calm and balance. So it uses alternate nostril breathing to equalize the amount of oxygen going to each side of the brain. So at the same time it's soothing and calming, it's also energizing. So, okay, we're gonna look weird and do it together. I'll show you first. So you're gonna close off your right nostril with your thumb. You're gonna breathe in your left nostril. And you close off your left nostril with one of your fingers. Breathe out your right. Breathe in your right. Close off your right. Breathe out your left. Breathe in your left. Close off your nostril. Breathe out your right. One more time. In your right. Close off your nostril. Breathe out your left. Good. Thank you, guys, for playing with me.
It's a little tricky.
You can't really do it wrong. It's okay. So, just to switch gears, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Something I really want you guys to get tonight is that we, totally different subject, but we get to choose our attitude. And this quote by the amazing Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, he wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. If any of you have not read it, it's amazing. He in response to the unthinkable horrors that he experienced in the Holocaust, he said, "Everything can be taken from a woman or a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." One example of this is that he used the power of his imagination to choose to visualize a disgusting meal that was given to him, a fish head in like dirty, muddy water. He would envision it as a beautifully prepared, freshly caught fish, and he would eat it as if it was that. And I realize it's a powerful example, but I use it because it really speaks to the power of our mind-body connection and how powerful our mind over matter can be as a practice. In this case, actually, it was a matter of life or death. So with that in mind, tonight, I invite you to join me in choosing the attitude, choosing the mindset of ageless living. Clinical neuroscientist Dr. Mario Martinez, has done extensive research on centenarians. He says, growing older is inevitable. Aging is optional. And it really has a lot to do with our beliefs about our health as we grow older. And our culture has programmed us to believe that growing older means decline, deterioration, and disease or dis-ease. But this does not have to be our mindset, because it's simply not true. It's time to shift the paradigm to believing that everything can go right with our bodies if we embody balance and wellness regardless of our state of health and well-being in this moment, okay? So in his research on healthy centenarians all over the world, he wanted to see what, if anything, they all had in common. He found and he found some traits that were across the board. He found that they all surrounded themselves with positive people, with people who supported their joyful, healthy outlook on life. And they also all looked forward to their future, right? Healthy 100 plus people looking forward to the future. It's like, no, not all downhill from here for them. One of the implications of this for us is that we need to let go of relationships that drain us and bring us down. And we need to foster and nurture relationships that bring us up. It's crucial to our wellness to drop out of the Ain't It Awful Club and take an inventory and get really clear about the relationships that inspire us and those that expire us, the ones that are taking us up or taking us down, expanding us or contracting us. So for our optimal health and wellness and to live 100+ years, we need to be really intentional with who we choose to spend our time with in order to protect our vital energy and for our longevity. So how powerful is our attitudes and our thoughts about what happens to our health as we grow older? A famous study was conducted in the 1980s by Harvard professor Ellen Langer of men in their 70s and 80s. She had one group live as if it was the 1950s and they were in their prime. The whole they were in a monastery, like a retreat center. The whole place was set up with pictures of them from their prime. They had magazines from their prime, TV shows going from their prime. They wore the clothes from that time. No mirrors. I'll come back into the present moment. And the control group were only told to reminisce about the good old days. Before the study, they were tested for hearing, blood pressure, eyesight, pulmonary function, muscle dexterity, and they also had their pictures taken. And the men who lived as if it was in the era of their prime, they looked 10 years younger in their photos. Their hearing, I love this, that their hearing, their vision, their lung function, their blood pressure had all dramatically improved, and they all reported a better sense of well-being. And when they left the venue, which when they got there, they didn't carry their luggage in, they didn't think they could. When they left the venue, they vibrantly carried their luggage and they strutted out the door. The control group had no changes. This study's been repeated many, many times since then, just to let you know. So the message of this study is so clear that a large portion of our wellness, our well-being, our vitality, our resilience comes down to our mindset, what we choose to think. We have a choice when it comes down to what thoughts we choose to think. And because we have free will, we can reach for a higher vibing thought anytime we wish. Love this quote, changed my life. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I know it's simple, but it's really, really powerful. Love them. So 2 other interconnected core components of our work at the Wellness and Communication Project is teaching people how to have agency and confidence with regards to their health and their health care. And what I mean by agency is that agency is our capacity to act independently and to make our own free choices. And to have agency, we need to be confident in our ability to make decisions for ourselves. So do you guys know that confidence is a trainable skill? Okay. Where do you think confidence comes from? Anybody?
Knowledge, experience.
Yeah, no, those are both really important. They definitely really important. But confidence actually comes directly from what we say to ourselves, our inner dialogue, our self-talk, which, again, like I said earlier, can be both positive and negative. But again, through awareness training, which is what Maureen and I do, we can learn to catch ourselves when we're going down that spiral of negative thought and make a shift in our thinking. In order to take charge of our health and well-being, confidence is required. So I shared with you earlier an overview of the types of formal meditations, but the good news is there are many things you might already be doing that produce a mindful or a kind of like a flow state response. When you participate in activities that are pleasurable to you, you kind of feel that immersed in the activity. For example, gardening, dancing, I'm just going to run through a few, swimming, cooking, knitting, running, listening to soothing music, getting a manicure and pedicure with your cell phone off, going to the beach, going for a mindful walk in nature, mindfully eating a really great meal, soaking in the tub, and even when we're immersed in a conversation with a person, when we feel deeply connected, fully present, and actively listening. I really consider all of those to be under the umbrella of mindful practices. if they provide you with the opportunity to be in the moment, in the zone. And so I hope by joining us today, you can increase your awareness of when you're experiencing these moments and engage in them and seek them out as a result. And a good barometer is just check in with yourself. Ask yourself, is this activity igniting relaxation and joy? Do I lose track of time when I'm engaging in this activity? Do I feel, like one of my teachers says, tuned in, tapped in, and turned on? I'd love to hear from you guys. What are some things that you guys do that make you feel kind of like this way I'm describing? You can just shout them out, whatever comes to your mind. I just like to hear.
Cooking.
Wow, me too.
Me too.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Dancing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love to dance. Why didn't you
Yeah, it's
mention that?
nice. I did.
I think you'd say that confidence comes from within, and you can make life a heaven or a hell. Your choice.
Yeah.
That's really important. I know people don't realize that.
So,
So,
yeah,
I like
yeah.
books for living, so my second book's a motivation book, and it talks about everything you're talking about tonight.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
So,
I'd love to start to read it.
true.
That's awesome. It is. It's an inside job. I mean, knowledge and experience and all of that is very important, but real confidence comes
Well, you
from.
mentioned Mark Twain. Mark Twain once said, "Destiny not a matter of chance, a matter of choice, and a choice up to you."
That's right. That's right.
Good quote.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
So most of you, even though you didn't already see it, even though you didn't chime in, are all participating in your self-care. And I want you to think about these activities as mindful practices. And I want you to think about that they're really, really good for your health. They're not self-indulgent, but they're self-preserving and they're self-care. Just one quick thing on the flip side. One of the things I highly recommend limiting is listening and watching the news, especially first thing in the morning.
I don't watch at all.
It's
Good
a stuff.
for you.
Yes, me
People will,
either.
people will tell me things, and I have no idea what's going on.
Good
I don't
girl.
know. It's out of my control.
stopped
I
it.
don't want to know anything about
Because it's
it.
basically the
There's
same
nothing good comes
stories
from
that
it.
are over and over again of just different faces. I mean, of course, we want to know if something happened with someone we love, but yeah, and it's sensational. All that stuff, good. So all of you should be like Barbara.
I'm trying.
So yeah, in the morning we want to focus on a new day, a new beginning, starting with the day with maybe gratitude for all the positive things, the fact that we just woke up,
Absolutely.
right? And I also recommend not watching the news right before bed. We want to go to sleep with positive images in our
Get out of
minds.
here. Work out.
So we get restful sleep so that our cells get what they need to regenerate and renew, okay? Good. So I hope you'll start practicing the simple breathing techniques I shared with you tonight, and maybe even consider incorporating a formal meditation practice to condition your mind so that you can deal with any events that you are faced with, whether it be with regards to your health situation, your loved one's health, or any events that we may not have chosen for ourselves, so that we can respond to those events rather than react, which will always lead to the best possible outcomes. But regardless of meditation, I want you all to memorize or to write down this formula. It changed my life. Events plus response equals outcome, okay? We all, like I said, we all have events, things happen, we're all gonna face things that are gonna cause suffering, right? What we have control over is the R. And that's where our power lies. Our power lies in our response. So within our response, we have control over our thoughts. Like I said earlier, we can choose our thoughts. We have control over the images that we create in our mind. And we have control over our actions, what we do and what we say. And if we take control of these three things with regards to our response to anything that life throws at us, think of Viktor Frankl, we will have better outcomes. I promise you that if you apply this formula, your life will work better. My final wish for you, for all of you, is to not just thrive, but not just survive, but to thrive, and to take charge of your health and well-being, both in and out of the doctor's office, and to wake up every day feeling like Mary at 92 years old, like you're just getting started. I thank you so much. If you guys don't mind, if there's any questions or comments, if there's anything burning desires, please raise your hand. If not, we're gonna, after Maureen's presentation, take any comments and questions.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, wonderful.
Oh. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on
Here's Maureen, my beautiful partner.
Tatiana, you want to come over here so you can see?
Yeah, I'm not, yeah, I have to leave at 7:30, so I'm gonna.
No, sit down so you can see.
Yeah.
So you can see here.
I just,
I can see well.
No, it's fine.
I'm gonna have to leave at 7:30 and I don't want to miss it.
Sit over one chair then.
I'll tell you.
Sure, all right, sweetie pie. Okay, so hi everybody. So this is.
Hi.
So this is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
My
right?
favorite thing.
Yes, I know, absolutely. We're gonna get to that. Does everybody know how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Okay, so how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Call out. What's the first
Spread the peanut butter.
First
you
I
get
slather
You get some
the
peanut butter and jelly. Oh my God. Okay, we got a long way to go there, Amy. What do you start with, Rick?
The bread.
Bread
You start with bread. Where do you get the bread?
at the store.
At the store. How do you get to the store?
You drive to the store.
You drive to the store. How do you drive to the store?
In your car or on your bicycle.
In your car. And how does that car get started to get you to the store that's gonna get you the bread to come bring it back home to make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
you.
You need a key.
You need a key? All right.
From yourself.
From yourself, all righty, in that pocket. And then what happens? Okay, now you're at the store, you got your bread, you bring it back home, you open up the bread bag, you start making what? What do you do? You toast it.
In this case, toast, yeah.
Okay, how do you toast it?
In a toaster,
In a toaster, which has to be
plugged in.
plugged in, and then what do? You guys are really great. I didn't imagine you guys would be this good.
Hit the button.
You hit the button,
Set the
exactly.
setting. Yeah.
Okay, what happens now?
Pops up.
You wait.
Pops up, you wait, it pops up. Now, keep going, keep
Put the
going.
peanut butter.
butter.
with the jelly
Get the
on.
peanut butter, where is that?
In the
We
cabinet.
should have known that by now, right? In
You
the
unscrew
cabinet.
you
And then
gotta unscrew
what?
the top.
What?
You take the
You
top
gotta
of the
roll.
jar.
Really
Exactly,
not worth
keep
it.
going,
Not worth it.
right?
Not worth it.
You gotta get the knife out of the drawer.
You gotta get the nut.
That's right.
Okay, so, do you see where we're going with this? Okay, there is a lot that is going on when you're doing something that's very familiar to you. And even though this was really familiar to you, and it really has a good feeling, right? Because what is better to quench your hunger than a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? So, nothing, exactly. So it is familiar, and you are at an emotional advantage here. This is making you feel really, really good. Okay, and now, do you have all the information that you need?
Yes.
Yeah, you did, absolutely. So you're also at an informational advantage. And yet, despite the familiarity and all the advantages, you didn't provide enough details. You didn't fully describe an event. You described events out of order, or you left them out altogether. And worst of all, you assumed that I knew. Not a good thing to do. So, what is this process? This thing that we all did together, that we all engaged in, what's it? What is it?
Communication.
Almost.
Planning.
Almost. When we imagine, we picture our past experiences. And then we recall everything from our memories. And then we express ourselves, which means that we put information in a logical order. We needed to define our term here. That's language. So now, vital to language and learning is being in that relaxed state that Liz was talking about. Open to awareness and receiving information and expressing yourself. As Liz mentioned, our mission is to train you to stay present in your doctor visit, and I'm going to add to that to say that you need to use your language in a way that empowers you. I'm trying to get used to this clicker thing. All right. So let's dive into what is interfering with that so you can learn what to do about it. So remember how Liz said that stress makes us stupid? So just how does this happen? Well, here is what happens to our thinking when stress is in the way. These are the cognitive symptoms of stress. Cognitive is just thought. You can see it right here: constant worrying, racing thoughts, forgetfulness, disorganization, no focus, poor judgment, and being pessimistic or seeing only the negative. That one was an eye-opener to me. I didn't know that that's actually a symptom of stress. So let me take all of this and put it into a personal experience that I had. I'm going to share with you so you can really see how this can affect you. So many years ago, I went to a 2-day conference on memory. It was pretty intense. But well, let me backtrack. So it was this two-day memory conference, and I was feeling like, oh my God, if I could walk out of here with one nugget that I could take home and use, I will really, really be happy. And it turns out that I did. Because the very next day at work, I had at the time a very demanding boss. The very next day at work, I'm walking through the hallway and my boss stops me, really suddenly and says, "Mo, come on in here, I have a question for you." So I was like, okay, well, okay. I go in there, she asked me a question, and it was a really heavy diagnostic type of a question. And I froze. Until I remembered what I had learned really, literally the previous day. So I said to her, "Can you give me 2 minutes?" And she said, "Sure." Went back to my office, sat down, and I remembered what I learned the day before. And that was that. She taught us. She put it in simple terms so that we could all remember it, and thank goodness she did, because I remembered it and I will never forget it. The way that she described it was that our emotional center is right next to our working memory center in our brains. When we experience strong emotions, the emotional center neurons flood working memory. And so what happens is that your memory is incapacitated. That is exactly what I experienced. So I sat down, I took a couple of breaths, having no idea what taking breaths was going to do for me at that time. But I took a couple of breaths, and I swear to you, I sat down and I just said to myself, okay, emotional neurons, just go back where you belong, get out of my memory, get out of my memory. And then as I did that, my response came to me. I knew what I was talking about. I went over to her, knocked on her door, and I said, "Hi, can I talk to you now?" She said, "Sure," sat down, gave her my response, and it was a hit. So, in your doctor visit, your attention, your memory, your thinking, your emotions, your outlook, everything, and your expression all converge. They are all present, and they are all vying for your attention at the same time. So just think of what any of these symptoms can do to your brain. Hijack it, which is exactly what it did to me. I would not have been able to respond, and I would certainly have thought very poorly of myself had I not been able to do that. So let's bring that hijacked brain into your doctor visit. Here you are, the patient, waiting. Here's something that's important for you to know. Despite the chaos that you and I are all feeling in our healthcare environment, there are 3 concepts that are finally being acknowledged on the other side of that door. I'm going to give you 3 quotes that represent these 3 concepts that are present in our healthcare system today. These 3 quotes come from a book written by Dr. Danielle Ofri, and it's called What Patients Say, What Doctors Hear. For all the sophisticated diagnostic tools of modern medicine, the conversation between doctor and patient remains the primary diagnostic tool. In this age of tech, and more tech, the conversation. It is so simple and yet so underutilized. The next quote. How doctors and patients communicate with one another is in fact the most critical element of medical care, and it can sometimes mean life or death. I am going to stand by this. In Dr. Ofri's book, she gives many, many examples of the journeys that she's had with many patients, and I promise you that this is absolutely present in this quote. So in our critical health environment, it's understandable how one piece of critical information can make a critical difference. And the third quote, a substantial portion of healing comes from the personal connection that is formed with the patient, borne out in controlled studies. With mindfulness, just as Liz mentioned, a personal connection can be formed in 5 minutes, even with a doctor that you're seeing for the first time. So although it can be challenging to develop all three, the diagnostic conversation, the communication, the connection, you can make sure that it happens. And it's especially important now because the research is telling us, for a while now actually, that when patients participate in their healthcare decisions at any point in their care, you don't have to be sitting in the hospital doing this, they get better health outcomes. So, talk. You'll be healthier, period. And note that the healing here is seen in controlled studies. It is something that all of us have experienced already and we've intuitively known, but it's now being measured and proven. Doctors want that data, and it is about time. I don't know if you remember, Liz, when we were at the Harvard, we go to a lot of things together. When we were at this Harvard continuing ed thing, a woman, I think, we were all in the, when you all get together for lunch and you have all those keynote speakers and whatever, I think it was the president of the American Medical Association. She got up and started talking about this stuff. And she actually kind of made a little bit of a joke about this. She said, yeah, I know, we had to measure it. That's just the way that it is. It had to get measured in order for it to be taken seriously and for the changes to be implemented in medical practice. So the good news here is that doctors are paying attention to that evidence, and medical practice has absolutely changed to reflect that. It's great news. However, research shows that despite the emphasis on patient autonomy, the current practice of medical decision-making still fails to empower patients. So what does this mean? This means that patients are given the opportunity to exercise their will. You mentioned that in agency, to exercise their will and be included in health decisions. But it is not making them feel that they are the authority of their bodies. Why is that feeling? There are many reasons for that, and you will all have the power to change after I tell you all this. So let's look at 4 of the reasons. The big one is a biggie. The first one is a biggie. There's a lot to unpack here. Strong emotions can impair people's abilities to absorb decision-relevant information. If the clinicians are blind to their patients' emotions or are unprepared for how to respond, it's difficult for them to effectively partner. Hold on to that. So there is a lot going on here, so I'm going to give you another personal example to shed some light on it, and it will bring all of this together for you. A couple of years ago, I went to the doctor. Honestly, I don't remember what it was for, but I was really, really anxious. The minute I got into his office, I sat down in a chair opposite him at his desk. That's where he always puts me when I walk in. I sat down and I cried. I didn't even say anything. I don't even remember why I cried, but I remember exactly how he made me feel. I said to him, I'm sorry, give me a minute. And in a smooth and calming voice, he just looked at me and he said, take your time. And I did. And he waited all of a minute. So what occurred here was that I had strong emotions. And because I expressed them immediately, I gave my doctor the opportunity to respond to them, effectively clearing the way for a healing visit. So the 4 reasons for the patient empowerment failure. This one is related. Number 1, your doctor cannot respond to the feelings if he doesn't know you're feeling. To quote Dr. Victor Montori, wrote this book, this is kind of interesting, Why We Revolt, A Patient Revolution for Careful and Kind Care. It is a fantastic book. Here's what he says. Shared decision-making is an empathic conversation by which patient and clinician think, talk, and feel through the situation. It is not giving patients what they want as if they were consumers, or giving them a menu full of choices, leaving them alone to just sort out what is best for them. Shared decision-making is a human expression of care. So you must share what you're feeling and thinking so you can get the care you need. Number 2 reason for the failure. Oh, whoops. Let's go back. Ignore that. The number 2, how do I do that? Just go back like this? Oh, okay. Number 2 reason for failure. Attitudinal barriers still exist. So physicians can be authoritarian, patients feel compelled to conform, they defer to their doctors, and they have this fear of being categorized as difficult, which prevents the patients from participating in their health care. I interviewed my father-in-law a couple of years ago. Jerry, what a guy. And I interviewed him about his communication with his doctor. And when I asked him, he said he doesn't always tell his doctor about his health. And I asked him why, and he said, because I want him to like me. And he said it like in a way that, like, what do you mean you don't know that? And so I looked at him and I said, Dad, seriously? And he goes, of course. And I was like, I'm not asking you. Seriously? This is what you do? And he said, yes, he's the authority, and I don't want him to have a bad day. I don't want to complain about what's going on with me. And so I just said to him, Dad, the doctor wants you to be better, not his best friend. So, but imagine, he's only one person. Imagine, I think we have an entire generation of people that did that. Absolutely, it's crazy.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. It's
It's
absolutely incredible.
I go through it all the time with my in-laws, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law.
It's-
Whatever the doctor says, they're like, okay.
Exactly.
They don't
And
have
it can't-
questions, they don't have anything to add.
It can't be that way, and it has to change.
It's incredible. Oh, yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. The 3rd reason is a more minor one, but it still plays a role. Participating in your decisions is not a passive process. It works only when you actively choose to partner in it, which means when you're active in it, you are recognizing what doesn't feel right for you, and you are investing in what does. That is the key here. So lasting behavior change only happens when you decide to change your behaviors. And then the last piece is just worth a quick mention because we're all experiencing it, is rushing. Doing a lot in a little bit of time is going to be of lesser value if that unimportant feeling that you get makes the care ineffective. So you cannot control the amount of time that you have, but you can control how you use the time, which I'm going to be telling you about. So now that you know some of the research that informs the doctor-patient relationship, let's look at the present status of the patient, which is you. 96% of patients experience one or more signs of fear in both a hospital and a medical setting, of which communication issues was in the top 10 in both. This is why we're doing this. Whoopsie, thank you. Thanks, Liz. Thank you. So this study, surveying 1,000 patients over a period of 3 years, revealed often unspoken signs and symptoms of fear. These blew my mind. Well, breathlessness, yeah, I've had that. Excessive sweating, nausea, dry mouth, feeling sick, heart palpitations, a fear of dying. Being mad or losing control, I was shocked about that one. And bingo, the inability to think clearly. And can you believe that in a hospital setting, about half of the discharge instructions given to patients are not heard by them because of their anxiety? What is the repercussions of this? I mean, it's enormous, considering that your recovery and your wellness and your future health all depend on understanding your instructions and doing what you need to do. So here's an example of some of the thoughts that a patient might have. I'm overreacting, my doctor doesn't understand me, I'm stupid, my doctor won't like me. There's Dad right there, my doctor won't like me. So, why is she feeling like this? Here's one answer. Medical jargon and information overload can provoke anxiety, confusion, and intimidation for the patient support person. Remember this one? Intimidation. I'm stupid. You, the patient, are at an emotional and informational disadvantage. This is no peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Fear is preventing you from thinking clearly. You are getting lost. And your informational disadvantage is preventing you from filling in the blanks. When you know what you're talking about and you kind of zone out, you come back in, you can fill in the blanks because you have the content, the knowledge, and the vocabulary. But in your doctor's office, you don't have the content, the knowledge, and the vocabulary, so you cannot fill in the blanks. And you cannot ask the right questions because you don't know what you don't know. So what is this doing to you? It is not making you better. Something has to give. The secret is you. Change has to come from you, the patient, who needs to banish fear and know that you deserve excellent health care in life. Deserve. This is a quote from Dr. Erica Schwartz, whose book, I mean, you're going to get like this is going somewhere, whose book is called Don't Let Your Doctor Kill You. Now, but she's the doctor. She's the doctor. And she clearly wants her patients to have agency because she understands how important it is to their health. So the reason that I'm telling you this is because a concern came up in one of the last talks that we did, a man named Jerry. We were talking about, don't worry, you can challenge your doctor, you can ask questions, and then he raised his hand, he said, but how can I do that? He said, my doctor, he's the authority, I can't talk to him like that. And I went, oh, wow. And I said, you know what? You can talk to your doctor, but you have to talk in a respectful way, and it's all about how you say it. And the doctor is the authority of medicine, but he is not the authority of your body. So he was really afraid. He was really afraid that he would be viewed less positively with a man that he'd had a very long-standing relationship with. But I am reporting to you, based on the research and doctor surveys, I promise you, that the patient doctors want is the one that you and I are creating here. So, let's get to it. You're going to do it in 3 steps. You're going to look, you're going to identify, and you're going to create. That is the coolest thing with these words. I'm sorry, I just understood it. Look, what are you going to do when you look? You're going to take a close look at your relationship with your doctor. You're going to clarify what your role is as the patient. Now, as with many relationships, we sometimes go along with it, and then we don't really take the steps that we need to change it and get the most out of it. But here, you are no longer the submissive patient. You are now a partner. Identify. Take responsibility. Identify the thoughts and the emotions you are bringing to the doctor visit that affects your ability to fully receive information and express yourself. Remember this. Allowing yourself to feel vulnerable is courageous. It makes it possible to do and say what you have to instead of fleeing, freezing, or submitting. Get fear out of the driver's seat and create. You can and you will actually create the doctor visit that meets your needs for your best health. And you will be your doctor's favorite patient. As you create, though, remember, don't forget what happened at the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Making assumptions is one of the worst things you can do as a doctor and as a patient. Just keep that in mind. So now, you are going to change. Here's how. You're gonna change your context for the visit. You're gonna change your expectations for your visits. And you're going to change your role. So before the visit, change your context. The patient-doctor relationship is a dynamic teacher-student, student-teacher sharing of information, whereby each are equally valuable. You're on equal ground here, remember that. You're going to create this interaction as a constantly switching teacher-student experience. One person always has information that the other doesn't and needs, always. Change your expectations. How about you just start by having some? As our care experience changed over time, we got used to longer waiting time, shorter doctor visits, we normalized it, we started expecting and accepting less instead of more, and we let it go. So, what are your expectations going to be? What needs do you want met in that visit? What are you worried about? And it can be anything that matters to you. When I shadow doctors in an ER, I heard a patient, she was like being rolled into something and she was really, really upset. Doctor asked her why she was really upset and she said, "Doctor, I'm reconciling with my daughter and I'm supposed to meet my granddaughter tomorrow to bake her cake. She's 5 years old, I've never met my granddaughter. I need to be there tomorrow to bake." Can you imagine? My heart is just pounding at that thought. And so now, here's the thing. The doctor could not promise her that she would be out tomorrow. But what she did for herself was that in talking about that fear, she was able then to be present for the rest of her visit so that the fear did not get in the way. The point being, anything, you could talk about anything. Talk about how your concern is affecting the quality of your life. Too many people leave that piece out. You must not do that. The doctor doesn't know about your life, and he doesn't know how every little thing is affecting you, so let him know. I'm going to skip the story with my mom and my dad. And then change your role. Be a storyteller. Be a storyteller. Be specific. Be chronological. Ask the right questions. Sometimes just thinking of your question processes the information for you and it answers a lot of questions for you so that what you're left with are just the questions that only the doctor can answer for you. So write those down. Tools for your visit. Tell the doctor immediately what you're worried about, even if it makes you uncomfortable. Remember, they have heard it all. You're not the only one. Have courage. Don't hesitate. Your doctor wants to know this right away. Every single doctor that I have spoken to, without fail, gets annoyed with that doorknob question. Tell him immediately. Ask your doctor anything. Ask him the questions you've prepared. Ask him what you don't understand in the moment. Now, this is very important from a speech-language pathology perspective. You have to ask what you don't understand in the moment, because what happens is you're faced with information, there's a piece of information you don't get, your brain shuts down, and you miss all the information that is to follow. And how we talked about how you can't fill in the blanks? Well, you're certainly not filling in the blanks here. So you must, it's okay like to interrupt and say, wait a minute, I don't get that, I don't get that. So you don't want to miss the information that follows. Now, and this is where awareness is key, everything that we're doing, Liz. Ask for reassurance and clarification about your treatment, your wellness plan, your prognosis. You can even ask him to remove any distractions if you want. When I was in the ER room, I can't begin to tell you, I couldn't believe it. I walked in and the TV is absolutely blaring. And I'm thinking like, is like nobody thinking of this? I don't understand. Like, how can the patient and the doctor not hear this? And then also from an SLP perspective, it's like there's different levels of noise. So an easy level of noise is like a siren. Believe it or not, a siren. The next level is like cafeteria noise because there's talking. But the highest level of noise is speech, is having somebody else talking while you're talking. When we go out to dinner with friends, if there's a conversation this way and a conversation that way, nothing. I hear absolutely nothing. When we're watching TV and Eric says something to me, I have to go, shut up, because I can't hear what's going on the TV. That's the highest level of noise. So you have to get that. And you can also ask your doctor to listen to you. It's okay to ask that. Some doctors want to hear the word hear instead, which is totally fine. But you have to ask it in a way that resonates for you. Correct any mistakes, impressions, or conclusions about you or your presenting problem. You know you. And always question what doesn't feel right to you. That is actually the only barometer that you need and that you have in your visit. You don't have enough knowledge to know if what he's saying is actually right or wrong, but you do know if it doesn't feel right to you, and that's what you have to question. Which brings me to the next point. Oh, I forgot the speak up part. You know you. Only you know your life, your needs, your priorities, and the quality of life that you want. Should I tell the story about my?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So when my father was on a million medications, and it took, they had like an incredibly sophisticated system where he was like figuring out all his medicines. My sister is a physician, so she was going through everything, and she comes to this pill, so she goes, "Pa, what are you taking this for?" And he says, "For my toe fungus." So I went, wait a minute, I said, "You're taking a pill for your toe fungus?" I said, I went to the podiatrist, I have a toe fungus, and he told me I could take a pill for my toe fungus, but then that means that I have to get my liver monitored. I said, "What are you doing that? You have a heart issue, you have a kidney issue, you have all these things going on, and you're worried about your toe fungus?" Well, I never saw my father take so much power in his hands. He just hits his hand on the table and he goes, "Okay, no more of that medicine." And I went, "Good for you, Pop." I had seen him in such a vulnerable position. He was looking so weak and vulnerable to me for like many visits, and all of a sudden I saw him be powerful, and I was like, "Go, Pop." It was so great. So, if we had one word to sum all this up, it would be conversation. The conversation. True clinician-patient partnership is not achievable if patients remain silent about their thoughts and perceptions. You have to look at it this way. So what is the conversation? The conversation is the art of knowing what to say and how to say it, of drawing people into a productive conversation and bringing them to a close. It is speaking when it's appropriate to speak and listening when it's appropriate to listen. There is a myth out there that conversation is a 50-50 interaction, that we each have an equal commitment to one whole. Not so. Conversation is a 100% commitment, all in. As the speaker, you are 100% responsible for communicating the best that you can, and as the listener, you are 100% responsible for listening as best you can. Both of them, always. Dr. Ofri quotes one of her patients. "Just talking about all this has actually made me feel better." I choke up every time I see that. This is how we should feel at every visit. Come on up here, Liz. So, our final thought. It is time to raise the bar for yourself, for your mind, for your best health. We want you to take pride. Take pride in your new bar, your new expectation, your new power, and feel better. Everyone.
Take a pledge
Raise
together.
your hand.
Raise your
Raise
right
your
hand.
And we're going to promise together. Feel your emotions, feel your words, feel your care. Be a better communicator, be a better creator, be a better patient. Join the Wellness and Communication Project in our patient revolution for Feel Better Patient Power.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
That was so great.
Amazing.
Yeah, I
Again,
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Thank you always so
Any-
much. We
Thank you
love,
so
we
much.
love every single one of you.
Oh,
Just
my
a joy
goodness.
to talk to you about what means so much to Liz and I. And we're just gonna keep spreading the word.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Really great.
Thank
You're
you.
both
Any questions at all?
Questions, any comments,
Yeah.
anything?
That's right.
Anything you wanna share?
I have a
Feel
share.
better, yes, you feel better already, there you
Who
go.
wants to share? Yes,
I have
Liz.
a
great.
story. My sister
Please.
told me.
Okay,
My
please.
sister's online at TJ Maxx, and there's a woman in front, or behind her, that's like this woman, and well dressed and on her own, and turns out she's 99 years old and starts talking. I am independent. I'm not going to go have anyone do anything for me. Blah blah blah. And my sister finds out, how old are you? 99. I'll be 100 next birthday.
Unbelievable.
And my sister said, I have to. What's the secret? And the woman said, get negative people out of your life. Stay with
Wow.
positive
Wow.
people. Exactly what you were
Wow.
saying.
Longevity,
So
yeah.
Wow.
That energy.
Could have been her
It's
sister. I don't know.
Yeah, Mary.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
But just what you said.
Incredible,
Just what you
right?
said. That
We
was,
gotta
that was a
really
good.
take
It was a
that one
good.
seriously.
Good.
Really nice.
We really
Good
do.
advice.
Yeah, we do.
We
It's
really
not
do.
an easy one to do, because
I
you
mean-
feel like you might be abandoned.